We have Season 77 coming up, and the theme of this one is going to be choosing your side, rocket choppers or seekers. Now we'll get to why that's the case in a bit, but it is going to be a 2-week season, and there's no HQ lock, so another way for low-level players to get a fair shot on the leaderboard. There's also only going to be a 20% reset compared to the normal 40%, which means all players are starting pretty close to each other, so there isn't going to be a huge gap in where you start next season. Now what they're saying is it's more about choosing between Sparky and Rudy, but as we'll see pretty soon, that's going to be a really easy choice. And I guess it's adding some lore too. The first season we've ever had Sparky and Rudy in the same tree. In fact, they're going to be the only two heroes this season. But there we can quickly see the 2 ER deck, pretty narrow one with a few choke points. And right away, our two starting troops are Zukas and Cryos, which doesn't seem so exciting, but the only defenses are flamethrowers and cannons. So at least for no instant training, you're not really going to be losing any troops. And even the first proto you can get, Simo, Microwave, Shield Gen, not really affecting these troops, especially since Zukas can outrange a Microwave. Otherwise, we do have Warriors also at 2 ER, and a boost node with some GBE, troop damage, and building damage. So at least early on, it's not going to be so different in attacks. It's like, who can drop Zuka's cooler and just get through the base? There's no abilities to really speed you up, so if you want to do attacks while hiding at work, then 2 ER could be a good meta for you. But the real fun happens once you go to 3 ER. First, it is a cool deck. There's a gap in the middle, but 2 dead ends, one on the left, one on the right side. And when you go back to the tree, there we can start choosing our sides. We have the top path with Rudy and a bunch of other stuff, and the bottom path with Sparky with her stuff. And each hero is going to be really expensive too. In fact, no one can even max out the tree. Even if you hit Legend on the first day, there's no way you can get all effective tech. So choosing your side isn't only as a gimmick, but you're really limited in how much you can unlock this season. But in the top path you have Rudy, Troop Health, Tiny Shock is right there, already maxed out, Scorchers, and some building health. So a lot of options and a very long dead end. But similarly on the bottom you have Sparky, Troop Damage, Shock Bombs, these are ones you have to upgrade, Mechs, and some more building health. So already at 3 ER you have a lot of options. You can go the top path with Rudy to building health, the bottom path, Sparky to building health, or you can do neither and take the middle path. That's going to have machine guns, a multi-node, rifles too, and an ability node that is the first we've seen in quite a while. We're used to sometimes having ability nodes with temporary abilities, but having something as important as Flare in a node like this, well, that's going to shake things up. We have to decide whether Flare is more important, which, I mean, it kind of makes a boom boom. Other games like Clash of Clans don't have it, versus a really strong ability like Defib or Speed Serum. If you do choose something like Flare, it is going to be maxed out at 30 seconds, but if you want to change it to another one, it's going to cost some diamonds. Maybe it could be like Flare is strong at some point, then you have to swap to Defib, and then at some point swap to Serum. So we'll see how the season plays out, but this season might be one where you're not going to have Flare the whole way through. In any case, those are all the options at 3 ER, but then once you go to 4 ER, you can see the deck opens up. I would say a bit weaker than 3 because you have multiple ramps, there's not so many dead ends. But in the tree, kind of like last season where we had the Brick Hero boost, we have Rudy boost and Sparky boost. When everything is fully maxed out, this means you can unlock the level 7 abilities, Sparky has her Critter Swarm, explosive charges, Rudy has his Wingman. They all kinda suck, but the other advantage is final level of those heroes is pretty expensive, 1.2 million. So what you can do is get the heroes to level 4, unlock the hero boost, and then you basically have a maxed out hero. It also poses as a restriction because if you don't unlock Rudy for example, you can't unlock the hero boost and what's beyond that. So that means no rocket choppers, no boom mines, no rocket launchers. Cause who cares about Rudy versus Sparky, they're only heroes anyways. You really care about the troops and whether choppers or seekers are good next season, that's what we gotta figure out. And here's where this choosing a side really matters. So if you want to get choppers this season, you have to get Rudy and his boost. And if you want seekers, you have to get Sparky and her boost. Or if you're crazy enough to skip both of them, you can go this middle path, picking up snipers, Gren, shock mines. At least there are shock mine shock launchers around this area, so for the secret players, somewhat of a way to counter them. But keep in mind that the only people who have shock launchers are those who also have seekers. So it might get a bit tricky deciding on which one to open. But then as we go to 5ER, we can see how the deck changes. It's not so much different, maybe a small gap on one side. But as far as the tree goes, we still have that top and bottom path. Now that multi-node above 5ER, Scorches and Choppas. If you remember earlier on, those two troops are only on the top path in earlier ERs. Choppas at 4ER and Scorches at 3. So the only way to go along this road is already picking up one of these guys. If you get Scorchers for example, then you can go on to get Barrage, Bombers, Heavy Choppas. At least we don't have them at the end this season. And the bottom path is pretty similar. We have Mechs and Seekers, which is only on the bottom path in earlier ERs. And if you pick one of them up, you can get Artillery, Lasers, and Rainmakers. I wonder why we have those. But like before, you can choose to ignore all of that, get Boom Cannons, Heavies, Mortars, and you make your way to 6ER. When you do open 6 engines, you can see that deck a lot stronger than 5ER, and that cool left ramp that doesn't fully connect on the right side. I wonder which season they learned that from. But it's a cool thing that maybe you can drop long range troops like Bombers, Rainmakers, and get something out of it there. Later on at 6ER, it's the only one with not that top and bottom path. You can get a Proto, double Doom Cannons, Shock Blasters, or Damage Gems. Or a bunch of these other boosts. Gunboat Energy, that multi-node is pretty strong too. The first and only building damage is up there, along with Critters. And the final troop boosts are the ones we just saw at 5ER, Rainmakers, Heavy Choppas, and the other one being Lasers and Bombers. Since these are the only ways to get to 7ER, you have to go all the way back for these dead ends before you even consider going to the end of the tree. So here we can pick up Lasers just to unlock that node. And yes, there's only going to be one node right after 7ER. First we'll take a look at the deck layout. It is a bit worse than 6. The left ramp fully opens up and you can drop on both sides. But is that last node going to be worth it? Because what could it possibly be for people to even consider going for a worse deck layout? And the answer? 200% troop damage, troop health, or building health. So that's the final little gimmick of the season. Do you want to save all those keys to reach the end? Or maybe get other stuff earlier on? If there's any season where one node could change everything, it's probably this one. Now there's a chance that no one's going to get this anyways because remember, it is a pretty expensive tree. So tomorrow we'll do a tech tree guide video and talk a bit about whether it's worth reaching the end. Otherwise, the main thing like we said is technically Rudy versus Sparky, but more importantly choosing whether you want to do Rocket Choppas or Seekers next season. So at a glance, let me know what you guys think and which side you're gonna pick. But that's gonna be it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.